just what to do. Don't you?
I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, Velocities in Music, the best kept secret in music reviews. We're going way back on our throwback extravaganza tonight. We are going to do Deja Vu from Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
Haven't we done this one before?
It's like deja vu. No, we haven't done it before.
Okay.
That was clever.
Bad joke.
That
Sorry.
was clever. Don't worry, I'll get you back later.
Oh, God.
Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Crosby, Stills, and Nash. Did an album before this one, and then this one was actually much anticipated because Neil Young, then unknown, joined the group, forming the full Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. Neil Young, one of my favorite artists from the classic rock era, obviously one of the biggest innovators in when it comes to like southern rock, and that that classic kind of dirty bluesy classic rock style, and his edge that he brings to this album, Deja Vu, is such a needed edge, I think, that these guys needed. What would you say is the defining feature of Deja Vu? Because I have one in mind.
Were you going to go with the vocal harmonies?
I was going to go with the vocal harmonies.
All right, then we're on the same page.
Yep. Yeah, this album is all about vocal harmonies.
Yep.
Every single track, where there's not a predominant vocal presence like on Almost Cut My Hair, you have just big vocal melodies where all four members are singing, and they're doing all four different vocal melodies, and honestly that's like one of the most entertaining parts of this album for me. Tom.
Yeah, and what's interesting about that too? Sorry, were you going to hand it over?
I was going to hand it, but you just took it, so it's cool.
No, okay.
It's cool, man. Just run with
about
it.
that. All right, so kind of building off of that, what's interesting is how they have it mixed, because typically harmonies just kind of wash in the background. You have a lead melody on top. They have the harmonies mixed just as high. I mean, everyone's voice is on the same level, so you just get these thick chords, vocal chords, no pun intended there. I mean, chords with an H in there, and they just wash over the whole sound. They're definitely the focus. Really, the only other band that I can think of that arranges their vocals like that is Yes. Sometimes, but obviously Yes does it on top of a crazy kind of prog rock thing. This is on more of a bluesy, folksy, classic rock sound.
Yeah, and I mean, harmonizing vocals back in the day, back in 1970 when this came out, it was more predominant. I mean, it's kind of a lost art. We don't really see a lot of this in modern day music, and it's something that I honestly think I'd like to see more of, because it takes a lot of talent to be able to do this. And you'd think that with all the computer technology that we have now and all the software that's out there, you'd be able to do a little bit more with vocal harmonies.
Yeah, I mean, even if you're not going to do it live, put it on your recordings.
Think about like the Beatles, the Beach Boys, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. All the artists, all the prog rock artists that did this. I mean, it's really kind of a paramount thing to classic rock, though. So I really get behind that. One thing I noticed about this album is the inherent folkiness of some of these tracks. Do you think that's just strictly because of Neil Young's presence, or do you think it was?
Well, honestly, their first album was even a little bit folksier. I mean, Neil Young definitely has that folk sound to him, especially in just the pure, genuine quality of his voice. But let's face it, Neil Young can also shred on that guitar. So he brings that kind of electric edge too, and I think it really works well with the other three on this album. Because of that, though, you also have this album feels like kind of a mishmash, kind of a hodgepodge, because each song, it kind of alternates on who was the predominant songwriter. So you get all their styles now, because they're all kind of performing them together. Then you get little flares of each, the kind of feeling that each one brings to each song, even if they're not a huge part in writing it. But obviously this was a hugely collaborative effort, so you get a little taste of that. But
it's kind of like an old school New Pornographers.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, because they've done a lot of stuff before this.
Because you hear like all the different artists, have like their own influence on the album, and because of that, it does have kind of I think this album flows well as an album, but it does have a conglomeration feel. Just because you get like kind of a smorgasbord of different types of rock and roll. There's almost kind of pop rock on here. There's some, just traditional rock and roll tracks, and there's some more southern rock tracks, and there's also a number of progressive rock tracks on here. And that's something that I really liked. I felt like, especially the back half of the album really kind of took the album to another level. Just very, very high quality classic rock sound. I don't really have a lot else to say on this album, Tito, other than the fact that the song Almost Cut My Hair, every time I hear it, I think of you and how badly you need a haircut.
I need a damn haircut. I've been meaning to. I'm sorry. You have to look at this ugly mop crap, and I apologize.
I told you I'd get you back.
You sure goddamn did, you bastard. Anyways, yeah, I don't have too much more to say about this either. It's a very good album. It's one of those I definitely recommend listening to, just because the high caliber of songwriting on here. I mean, all these guys are masters at what they did, and they knew how to work together, and they put just perfection into this.
Yep. And apparently it took over 800 hours to record.
Which is insane.
Yeah, and when you think about it, 800 hours to record. I mean, today's standards. Have you ever heard of someone putting in 800 hours?
Well, that's if you're working 40 hours a week, that's 20 weeks. That's almost half a year just in the studio, and that's 40 hours a week, which I don't think most musicians spend 40 hours a week in
unless
the
they
studio.
have a fat record contract.
Yeah, no kidding.
Then they're still expected to go on tour, at least a good portion of the year. So I mean, it's hard to even understand in today's world, let alone back then when your artists are putting out albums multiple times a year.
Yeah, you compare that with the fact that like Nirvana's Nevermind took them like a week to record or something like that. Yeah. Just one quick like Alleluia of a recording session, and then you have this that was like 800 hours.
But it shows because Deja Vu really works in a really good atmosphere on every track. You feel like these tracks are complete. You don't feel like this is just a casual, just hit the studio and recorded sort of thing. It almost has obviously not. This album is not the same quality as Dark Side of the Moon. But when you listen to Dark Side of the Moon, this was planned. That it's been very, very well rehearsed. It go in, and every little detail is perfect. And you get a lot of that when you listen to Deja Vu. So the 800 hours, I really do appreciate that when I listen to it. And I gotta say, just most of these songs are just so damn catchy that it's hard not to fall in love with this. Although I don't think as a whole it's really one of the best rock albums of all, classic rock albums.
I wouldn't say so, but it's still very good.
Yep, definitely recommend it. I'm gonna go 87 on this one.
I'm gonna go 85.
Cool. Definitely well liked, but like we said, not one of the best classic rock albums of all time. However, what is your favorite classic rock album of all time? We've done a couple classic rock albums lately, and we were interested in doing more in the future because you guys, we all kind of grew up on it. I mean, if your dads were like our dads, they took us in car rides and said, no, you need to quit listening to that pop station, and turned on the classic rock and set us straight because they're good dads. So let us know at www.velocitiesandmusic.com or youtube.com/velocitiesandmusic. As always, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook. That's where we get to know you guys and know what you want us to review. Please follow us, like us, and leave us a comment. I'm Jake.
I'm Tom.
And we are VIMTV, moving music critique forward.
24 years ago, I come into this life, the son of a